August 29th, 2021. A car pulls over outside a farmhouse gate outside Bacău, eastern Romania. An old man steps out, confused, slow, blinking in the afternoon light. Then, the car speeds away. The man they buried in their hearts 30 years ago is before their eyes, wearing the exact same clothes he left in years ago. And the question on everyone's mind: where has Vasile Gorgos been for 30 years? Much more, why doesn't he remember a single day of it? This is the story of a farmer who disappeared for 30 years, but came back remembering nothing of it. A tale of what 30 years of silence does to a family still waiting, and what happens when the answer they prayed for arrives with no answers at all. The last morning. Before being declared missing in 1991, Vasile Gorgos was a 63-year-old cattle farmer and livestock trader who had built his life on a routine of making brief business excursions to various cities to conduct his livestock business. Every few weeks, he boards a train along the Bacău-Ploiești line, sells his animals, and comes home. Dozens of times without incident, even going as far to pay for his ticket in advance. This trip was no different. At least, that was what everyone thought. Until his last trip. He went, and never came back. Without any sign of him showing up, his family called the police. Nobody found anything. Days turned to weeks. Then months with no trace or a sign, but a lingering question. Where did he go? 30 years of silence. In the time he was declared missing, investigations kept going. But the tides of time left him a forgotten spectacle, while his home country, Romania, transformed around his absence. The country left communism behind, joined NATO, and joined the European Union. The internet arrived, mobile phones, a world Vasile had never seen. Meanwhile, Vasile's family moved through grief the only way they knew how, holding memorial services for a man who now exists as a memory, mourning a man they could never bury. His wife waited as long as she could, never knowing what became of him, neither getting the answer she spent years quietly hoping for before she was gone. 30 years of silence, and still no answer. As if he never left. 30 years, and then he was there like he never left. A car brought him back, dropped him where he lived. But whoever dropped him off didn't wait to be asked. He stepped out slowly, still taking in the image of his surroundings of a place familiar yet feels distant in years. And for a moment everyone stood staring, thinking whether they had seen a ghost or the man they had buried in everything but name. In the same clothes, carrying the same ticket he had booked 30 years ago. 30 years older, unable to recognize his own children. His ID card still on him, as if time had simply refused to touch what he was carrying, even as it took everything else. Investigators sat with him, asking him the only question they wanted answered. Where had he been? Vasile looked at them and said, "I was home, the whole time." His son, who had spent 3 decades searching for a man he feared was dead, tried to make sense of what he was seeing. We tried to make sense of it, but every answer created a new question. Every answer, a new question. Vasile's story is the type that raises theories and speculations, the kind that kept his family, friends, and investigators thinking over the possibilities of what could have happened. Was he kidnapped? But if he was there, should be physical evidence of harm. Not to mention kidnappers don't return men 30 years later and then disappear without a word. Did he leave voluntarily? If he left walking away from everything he knew to build something else, somewhere else, there should be records. However, no trail leading anywhere. Was he imprisoned? Forced to work? Kept against his will? Discarded when he was no longer useful? Possible, but again, nothing pointing anywhere at all. For a man who had been gone for 30 years, he looked too healthy for any of the theories people made of him. One thing that was evident was his memory. Even after a comprehensive medical examination that found him remarkably healthy for his age, the gaps were impossible to ignore. He could recall stories about his father. He remembered his wife had passed. He knew his own birthday, but the decades he was missing. A complete blank. We don't understand him. He doesn't know what he's saying. He talks to us about the period when he was involved in raising and selling cows. We ask him one thing, and he tells us another. Who knows where he has been? Who kept him? Maybe he was forced to work. Who knows what kind of life he led? His son said. Every theory, every attempt at an answer, all of it dissolving into the same silence Vasile had carried home with him. The silence he carried home. And yet, here we are. 3 decades reduced to a single unanswered word. Where? A wife who didn't live to see him return. Children who grew old, waiting for an answer that never came. And the people who took him, if anyone did, never came forward. Coming home to a life that looked strange, yet familiar to call his own. The car that dropped him off that August afternoon was never identified. The driver was never found. And Vasile himself, sitting in the same farmhouse he always knew, still insists he never went anywhere at all. Who knows what he has been? Who kept him? Maybe he was forced to work. Who knows what kind of life he led? A question that has never stopped waiting for an answer, and probably never will.